sometimes you just gotta go all the way up one string. I don't know.
Hey, this is Tim Pierce. One of my favorite things on Pete Thorn's channel is his series, So You Want to Be a Professional Musician. My favorite part of this series is when he talks about preparing for gigs. He's great at this. Some of the things he does are things I do myself, and I recommend to everybody. So we did a jam here and traded off. It was really fun and inspiring. We also then went to his studio, had this conversation. I was able to list 20 tips, 20 specific tips in the conversation about how to prepare for a gig and how to have fun while doing it. Click the link below if you want to check out the masterclass. We're up to over 1,000 videos, and there's a 14-day free trial.
Magically, we're here in my studio. What happened?
I drove over here.
You look good with that guitar.
You know, you're right, and maybe I should borrow it.
What did you say? Like one of the first times I came over, I brought my old Strat. You're like, you can leave this here.
Yeah, this is a great one.
But you have a similar.
I do.
One, right?
I do. I like yours a little better though.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah. You're really good at learning songs. You're really good at getting gigs. You're really good at being a professional musician.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You're stellar at being a professional musician.
I love your series, How to Be a Pro Musician. I've watched every single one of them. And one of the things I found out is you have a really good system for learning songs. And you talk about, first and foremost, when you start, let's say you have 48 hours or 4 days or 4 weeks, you always get it done and you approach it with confidence.
You know, I think it's all about knowing your pace that you learn at and sort of honoring that. You know, probably like you, I've had to learn a lot of material in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, hopefully, you've got more time. Like, you know, a tour is coming in 2 months or something. The rehearsals are starting. And that's
the position you're in now. You have something in January, right?
Yeah, I do. So that's going to happen soon where it's like, okay, I need to like start sort of thinking about scheduling out how long it's going to take me to learn these songs because it'll be a fair amount of material. And personally, for me, I find a comfortable pace is 2 to 3 to 4 songs a day, depending on the difficulty of the material.
Gotcha. If
If I honor the pace that I know I can absorb and learn things at, then I'm going to be okay. Now, it depends on the material. I mean, I learned about 20 songs for the Ultimate Queen celebration. It's Queen music, so it's not the same as you know. You got to nail those. You know, it's not. There's no blues to it. Yeah. It's almost like 2 chords. It's almost like a 2 chords for bar jazz or something.
Yeah.
So you got to nail the changes, and then there's all that chromatic movement going on with the solos and stuff. And there's such iconic parts. You just have to nail it because there's no room for slop. So going from that to, you know, if you're learning how to play, you know, or something, you know, All Right Now or something, it's like there's room in there for improv and laying out and all kinds of stuff. So it's not so structured. So of course it depends on the material. But for me, 2 to 3 songs, let's say 3 songs a day. And what I'll do is I'll get up in the morning and make a cup of coffee, and then I'll pull up one of the tunes and start learning it. And I like to, as I'm doing this, by the way, I'm listening to the tones and the parts and maybe picking out a guitar or pedals or, you know, dialing in the sounds. Like right from the get-go, I like to do that stuff.
Right, because you have to show up with the sounds, not just the parts, but the sounds.
I think so. For me, it's a big deal to have the, you know, for if you're sideman or even doing, you know, cover stuff, you want to show up and you want to have the right. For me, I mean, a sideman gig is like a cover gig. It's just that the real guy happens to be standing over there singing.
That's so well put.
You know what I mean? It's like I'm learning other people's parts, and it's like I'm trying to recreate them, and it's sort of like being an actor or something, you know, where you're like delivering the lines. I'll pull up a song, 2, maybe 3, and spend a few hours trying to internalize them to the point where I've maybe got them down 85%.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I'll stop for the day, and you know, I'll come back to it the next morning and revisit those, because I don't know if if you're like me and you're learning things mostly by ear and not reading off charts and stuff, but by ear, I come back to the next day and I can't. I'm like, how did that first song go? How did that? Unless it's a song I really know because it's a classic or something. It's like I don't really remember. So I'll spend 15 or 20 minutes revisiting it the next day, and it's like, oh yeah, right. There's where the verse goes, and there's where the bridge goes. So within 15 or 20 minutes, I've got song one kind of, and then that final 15%, because I say I'll get it 85%, I'll try and tighten up then. Then I'll move on to the second song, spend my 15 minutes reviewing, getting it under my fingers again, and then tightening up the final 15% and doing that sort of thing. And then, so maybe I spend a couple hours on that.
You review the first three first, and then move on.
And then move on.
Yeah.
And then I'll move on and add another three. So now by the second day, if I put in a good day of work, hopefully I'm up to 6 tunes, and the first 3 are pretty dialed in, and the second 3 are like 85%. And then the next morning I do the same thing, where I go back and I revisit those 3, nail down the final 15%, and then I'll add another 3 that day. So kind of 3 days in, hopefully I'm 9 tunes in to learning whatever the set of music I got to learn is.
Then on that third day, are you reviewing 6 songs and learning 3 more? So
I'll kind of review the ones from the day before.
The day before, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then what I do is maybe the 4th day or 5th day of this process, that's a full review day. I won't learn any more material. I'll go back and review the 6, 9, 12, however many it is, songs that I've learned up till that point. And I'll spend that day just reviewing and trying to internalize that stuff. And then I'll take a day off. That's how I do it.
Maybe that day off is the key too, because then it sinks into your psychology somehow, your memory.
For me,
yeah,
like taking a day away and then coming back. Sleeping on things is important. So that's how I like to do it. Now everybody's different. Everybody internalizes things at a different rate, but that's the pace that seems to work for me. And like I say, if I'm learning a Queen song, it's a little bit different than if I'm learning, a ZZ Top kind of blues rocker or something. Sort of pretty disorganized, like in my life in general. And
we all get stuff thrown at us constantly. That's the hard part, because people like me today, I'm throwing more stuff at you. So it happens all the time, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's true, where it's like, hey, I was wondering if today we could do, and I always want to because it's you coming over and stuff, but you're absolutely right. Then you look at it and go, like, if you look down on the floor right now, those are all videos that I've either just completed or have to do, which is a lot of, it's like, and each one of those will take 2 days. So it's always like there's always work that we have. You've got sessions coming in, tons of stuff to do. Yeah, and I make a lot of videos for. So it's always just trying to control that flow of stuff to do. Balancing.
Yeah, people come to my house and they do a song and they go, "Oh, we have another one. Can you do it?" And you can't say no.
Right.
So then the time it just keeps stretching out. So you have to create spaces. To prepare for these things.
And these are quality problems. If you get to that place, then you're in a good spot, right?
So what about charts? I don't think you use charts, do you?
No, generally not, although I do like to make notes. So I can read a chart. Basic chord charts aren't a problem, but I'm not a great notation reader. But I sort of don't like to read charts, and maybe that's just my laziness about learning how to read charts well or learn notation well. But I feel like in rock and roll, I want to know the song intrinsically and have it internalized and not be looking at sheet music. So,
you and I have talked about this. If you start with a chart, you get hooked on it. And at a certain point, you have to give it up. And that gets harder and harder the further you go along sometimes.
Even great players that I've been in bands with, I've noticed that people that can read really well, I've noticed that they sometimes will stay on the charts for like even up, through the gigs. And I'm like, if you're up there on stage and you're performing for me, reading is like not really I don't know. It's just like not, it's perfect for some types of things,
Well, on stage, you don't want to be glued to it. You want to be performing and you want to see the audience.
Yeah.
I know. I like to use sheets. So I'll take a big cardstock.
Yeah.
And I'll do intro, verse, chorus. And if there's some change up in there that I know is going to throw me, I'll add it in. Or if the bridge is a little funny, or if some portion has 9 bars or something, I'll write 9. Just little notes. But I write them real big so that if the lights are changing and it's dark, I can see it on the floor. The audience doesn't know there's no music stand in front of me.
Yeah.
So I like to have just little notes sometimes. But even then, if I'm going to do a gig, I try and get rid of those eventually. But sometimes I don't have enough time to really burn everything in, and I'll just put some cheat notes down on the floor.
Well, two things about that. I love the idea of making notes, especially when you're just going into rehearsals. And for me, there's nothing like the first time I play a song with a band. Like, so hopefully you get a rehearsal.
It's very different, isn't it?
Yeah. Somehow it nails it into my memory, and it's
Yeah.
like no matter how many times I sit there and I go over it, by myself, in a rehearsal situation or in a just a practicing situation, playing it with the other players for the first time. That's when, oh, I need to work on that part.
It's a do or die moment. And that's when you really step up. It's really true.
Yeah, exactly. So going into that moment, I'll sometimes make notes and stuff. So just before we play the song, I'll look and it'll say, capo 3. Oh yeah, I got to put a capo on for this one, or whatever. Like little notes like that. Or it could be arrangement things, or, remember, half verse, second verse, or something like that. Something along those lines. So I like to make little, they're not even charts. They're like little cheat sheet notes for sure. The one thing that you just reminded me of is this great, and I did a whole article on some things that I learned from Chris Cornell in the time that I played with him. But one of the cool little tricks I learned from him, I remember we were doing the Jay Leno show, which was the Tonight Show, and we had to cut the second. Actually, it was what I just said. We had to cut the second verse of the song, as I remember, in half to get the song down to 3 minutes and 30 seconds for television. And of course, we played this song on tour like 100 times. And you're like, oh my God, on TV, how am I going to remember to do the half-second verse? How am I going to remember to bust into the chorus when I generally feel like it's time to start the verse again? You played it so many times, it's in your memory. So you just hope you'll remember. And he said, you know what I'd like to do when I have those situations is I just put one word on the stage. I put a sign that says remember.
What a great idea.
Otherwise you think, oh, what should I do? Write a chart or try and, and that's just going to be too much information, too complicated. But one word was all that I needed to remind myself of that one little arrangement change.
So it worked.
Yeah, you'll look exactly. I did it that day. We were at the show and I put the sign out, and then he even told me afterwards. He said, I saw your sign and I remembered. And I'm like, well, you taught me. It's a great trick. But, to just put that one sign down there on the stage that reminds you of that one little arrangement change, or maybe it's a couple things, but you'll look down at your pedals or to tune or something, and it'll clue, oh, yeah. I got to remember that thing. Like, don't space out in the moment. Because, heat of the moment, TV, it's like 3.5 minutes. You know how those shows are. It's like hurry up and wait all day, and then all of a sudden you're on, and then it's over before you know it.
And you've got one shot.
And you got one shot. There ain't no do-overs. So.
No. What I realized is you and I both do this. I show up at the first rehearsal knowing everything completely. Mm. You would think you could show up at the first rehearsal and start learning, but that's not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, you don't feel confident if you do that.
Yeah.
But the other thing, people expect you to show up knowing everything. And then you start just interpreting and making things better and more polished. And maybe you forget something here or there, but you really have to know it before you walk into the first rehearsal.
I agree. I want to make people feel like I always say at the audition, I want to make people feel, the artist feel that we could walk out on stage right now and play and everything would be fine. I always say, I've said it a million times, so sorry if anybody's seen me do this spiel before, but they're stressed out. They're forming a new band. They're looking for a guitar player, maybe a full band. They've got, this new album coming out. Is it going to do good? I need to find a band. Am I going to be able to find people that are cool, that all get along?
I'm spending tons of money on this rehearsal room.
Yeah, right now, I don't know,
Right.
So if you walk in and you're cool and you're chill and you shake their hand, you're nice, and then it's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's do this or whatever. And then they count the tune off and you come in with a great tone that dials the parts on the album. Yeah. And you play the parts right, and maybe at the end of it, all that needs to be talked about is like, how are we going to do the ending? Like, you want to put a button on the end, or you want the artist to feel like, oh my God, like we could have just actually done that right now, and it would have been pretty good.
Well, and for me, rehearsals are fun. I want to have fun. Yeah. So if I know it, I show up, and I know the rehearsals are going to be, I'm just going to have fun. It's going to be great. I'm just enjoying myself, rather than being concerned or worried or trying to remember stuff. You can have fun from the word go if you know it when you show up for the first rehearsal.
That's right. You can.
Yeah, when I have a gig, I generally spend every spare moment I have around the work and commitments I already have for 3 weeks. I mean, I'm talking about Friday night. I'm talking about Sunday morning.
Right.
Just constantly hitting it again and again and again. And I'll star certain things that are harder so that some things are easy. Like if you're playing All Right Now by Free, you can go through it once or twice. You kind of got it. But something else, you might have to look at 10 or 20 times. So I'll make notes on those things that I need to keep revisiting. Yeah. So that I'm not wasting time or repeating myself.
You're absolutely right. That's like the Queen gig. Right before we go on stage, I'm like, how does it go? And the reason that I'll do it is because if I haven't just done it, I don't have the world's greatest memory. And if I haven't just done it before, like where I just hesitated, what's the arpeggio again? I was like, oh yeah, it's C flat.
Yeah.
That in that moment, it's too late. Yeah. So I need to do that. I need to go over this stuff, I'll go over that every time before the, right before the show. It's the same thing when I used to play with Don. I'd done it a million times, but so I don't have that moment where I forget.
Well, you can't. Hotel California is a perfect example because you can really only make a mistake. Everything has to be perfect. The only thing that is obvious is when you make a mistake. There's no room on that. It's like a photograph. Everything has to be just as
that's right. All the little
yeah. There's no skating.
Yeah, it's not. There's no screwing around with it. So you have to nail it.
Yeah.
And those things I constantly review.
And I do too. Before the gig, I'll have everything downloaded to my phone and on headphones. If my mind goes, wait, what was that thing? I'll just go right to it, play it. Go, oh, okay.
Yeah, got this.
Yeah, but pre-gig kind of studying is really good.
Yeah.
And warming up to get your hands flowing. Sometimes I'll eat dinner and the only thing I'll do up until the gig is not talk to anybody and just practice. Mm-hmm. So that when I walk out on stage, I feel like I'm the best guitar player I can be.
Yeah, you're in the moment. Yeah, I've learned that one the hard way. Like maybe warming up and being totally in the zone and then being, I got this, and then I'll take a half an hour and I'll get distracted by talking to people and stuff. And then I go on stage and go, I'm not in the music anymore. Like I remember going to Van Halen in maybe it was the 2012 show. Yeah, it was the one in 2012, and I saw Ed up in Oakland. And I remember I went backstage before and I got to see him and stuff. And he's such a gracious guy and a sweet guy, and he's just a really welcoming dude. And I remember having, coming out and meeting me in the hallway and putting his arm around me, putting me in the dressing room and stuff, and then sitting and talking to me for, we talked for 15 minutes, probably something like that. And he was showing me a couple photos. And then I felt him get a little quiet for a second. And I said, I should leave you alone, so you can get ready for the gig. And he's like, okay, man, sounds great. I'll talk to you after or whatever.
Good for you.
Sensing that moment when it's time to, I was like, I know he wants to get ready, And then I remember him texting afterwards saying, that he felt like, like we all do, like something like he was in his head or could never get in the zone that night or something along those lines. But, it's time to, sometimes guitar players, they need a minute, or musicians in general, to just, so always sensing that, like before a gig, I try and be really cognizant of no matter who it is. Like, I don't want to take up, you always put it out there like, hey, if we can chat after if you want to, do your thing, or even if somebody's graciously invited me to come and.
Well, I realize now my solution for that, I have the guitar on, I'm talking to somebody, but I'm playing at the same time. Yeah. So if you want to talk to me, you're going to listen to me.
You're going to hear my time.
That's my solution for that.
Yeah.
And it keeps me from slipping away from the connection.
Yeah.
But it's true. You want to be gracious and nice, but at a certain point, you might have to retreat and meditate.
It's good to get into your whatever that thing is before.
Tonight, I'm going to play one song on stage, and beforehand, about 40 minutes before, I'm going to start warming up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go out, and I'll be able to talk to people because it's just one song. That's a different thing. But I will warm up. Yeah. I'll have the guitar in my hands, and as I talk to people, I'll be going.
flip side is that moment where somebody invites you up on stage and hands you the guitar and you just grab it and it's like not even your guitar and you're like, I don't have a pick. And somebody gives you a pick.
Yeah.
And then and that's actually some of my favorite moments on stage because it was so like, I don't know. And then you just, whatever is thrown at you. It's a little like that moment actually that I feel like when we went to Michael Thompson's house. And he handed us that crazy guitar and was like...
He passed it around.
We just passed it around. I'm sitting there with you guys. And I'm like, oh my God, I got Michael Thompson, Tim Pearson. Michael just handed me his... It's like that bad dream that you've, like... And I've got to play on Michael's guitar and, the action is like this. Like
and we're filming. He's like Josh Smith. He's got heavy strings and the action is like this high and you're going...
You weren't going like that.
I got lucky. That's all.
No,
I got lucky.
Amazing. But I felt like I actually did okay under the circumstances. I was like actually happy. Like that wasn't so bad. Like whatever I played wasn't total crap.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, man. You bet.
Right.
Yeah, you bet. That was a lot of fun. Great questions.